Welcome everyone to a Phase 3 discussion about Paladins, some runes, talent options, and questing, dungeons. We'll talk about different builds, the runes we have available coming to our head and wrist. We'll also talk about different questing locations, zones, where you can finish up, and how I would build my Paladin for Phase 3. Upcoming in Phase 3, we're going to have new runes for our helmet and our wrist slots. Currently for the helm, that is, I guess, data mine. Wraith is going to be a big push between fanaticism. I believe fanaticism will always take over for Wraith, just because you get 18% critical strike chance with holy spells. The other options, improved sanctuary is not really an option to me personally. And Light's Grace is okay. It's a half a second on a 2.5 second cast. And also in Phase 3, we get wrist runes. We have improved Hammer of Wraith. Cooldown is reset each time it damages an enemy below 10% health. Purifying Power does sound great. It reduces the cooldown on two very good abilities by 50%. And Holy Wraith can be cast on any target, which is massive. So we're definitely going to be taking Purifying Power. And for head, I would probably take Fanaticism unless I was tanking. But that'll sum up our runes for Phase 3 currently that we know about. As for builds, there are a couple builds that I was working with. There is the Retribution, kind of an AOE Retribution build, because we can pick up Consecration while keeping 5 stacks of Vengeance. I will keep Scylla Command, even with the Scylla Martyrdom changes. I just feel like keep Scylla Command for now is what I will currently do. You can move Pursuit of Justice 1 point to wherever you want, but you have to have that to get down to here. With Retribution having access to Consecration, we'll be able to test to see if Wraith will proc Art of War. I doubt it because it's holy damage. We'll just check when the time comes. This is the build that I would use for any form of DPS leveling, maybe dungeons if you want a DPS. It's a pretty simple build. You can move some from the Holy Tree, but this gives you access to Divine Strength and improved Seal of Righteous, which will work with Seal of Martyrdom. And then obviously Consecration. For AoE tanking in Phase 3, this is the build I would use. As you're leveling, you can move the points around to where you need, but this could be your final build. It's very versatile. It has Conviction and Blessing of Kings and Consecration and Seal of Command for Snap Threat. For your runes, you're going to go with, I would go with Wraith. It gives your Consecration critical strikes, and your damage from your Exorcism, Holy Shock, Holy Wraith, and Consecration gain additional critical strike chance equal to your melee critical strike chance. And that's the head rune I would use. For wrist, I would put on Purifying Power because it gives you access to Holy Wraith, can be cast on any target, and it synergizes well with a Wraith on the head rune. For your melee critical strike chance, it also gains a critical strike chance. Your other runes are obviously going to be the same as AoE, you know, Avenger's Shield, a Divine Storm, a Sheath. The only difference is you're going to have an extra button now to pick up more mobs together, which is great. AoE tanking is going to be a really good time in Phase 3, and I am super excited. For any kind of holy builds going into Phase 3, you have your normal Holy Shock build. I did put a few points over here in Benediction for reduce the mana cost of some Judgment and Seals, and a couple points here just for any mana regen during long fights. You could probably put another point there, and that leaves you with 4 points. There really isn't many options here. This is just going to be play what you want here. You're obviously going to keep the holies things as normal. You can add points here if you want. I mean, you're going to have some points left over. Holy is kind of, I don't want to say in a strange spot, but it's kind of in the spot in Phase 3 that Protection was in Phase 2. You just don't have enough points, you know, you're just short a couple points. 10 points would go a long way in Holy for Phase 3, an extra 10 points. Phase 4 is going to look good once they get those extra 10 points, because they can start moving more into a little bit more into damage through melee, which will help out their Sheath. As for now, this is kind of what I would do. It leaves you a little bit of damage. You can move these points around as well into improved, you know, Blessing of Freedom, basically. You won't reach Blessing of Kings. You won't reach Conviction. It's just kind of in a weird limbo. You can obviously go into Consecration and improve Righteous Seal and just keep everything into the Holy Tree and not mess with these other trees at all. But that's kind of up to you. You still don't really have a lot of points that you can put anywhere. It's just a weird spot. This is what Protection Paladins have been in since, you know, the beginning of the game, basically, of Season of Discovery. Runes, nothing crazy. Fanaticism, holy spells by 18%. So I would definitely lean towards Fanaticism. If you're doing a little bit more damage, you can run Wraith, but I don't think you want to lose the 18%. As for your other runes, your chest, I don't know. I think Seal of Martyrdom might be okay. A lot of people are going with Horn of Lordaeron. Divine Storm, if you want that extra damage during dungeon runs as holy. But you can lean more towards a holy build then to Waste, Infusion of Light, or Sheath of Light. I think Infusion could be better if you have Exorcism for your legs. Because then you can start through putting more damage and start leaning more towards adding some melee damage or survivability. It's just up in the air. Feet, the same thing. Art of War, Sacred Shield, Guarded by the Light. I mean, they're all good except for Guarded by the Light because it reduces your healing. So either Art of War, Exorcist, or Divine Sacrifice, Sacred Shield, depending on your situation. So here we are with Deep Protection. All the way down to Holy Shield. We have 10 points left. We're level 40. The 10 points I would, me personally, what I would do is I would take back Holy Shield and go to Consecration through Strength. And improve Seal of Righteous. I would at least pick that up because it does stack with your Seal of Martyrdom. Very big deal. You can put that last point you have instead of Consecration. You can put it here in the Holy Shield. This will work. This is a Deep Protection build. This is a major lack of buttons. It's a massive problem. Your head rune options for protection, you have improved Sanctuary, which will increase your damage prevented by 100%. And at level 50, it is preventing up to 19. You're looking at up to 38 damage prevented. Is it worth taking over either Wraith or Fanaticism? I don't think so. I think Wraith is okay if you're going to pick up the Consecration rune. If you're going to drop the Holy Shield and pick up the Consecration, Wraith is your option. Fanaticism if not. As for any other runes for Deep Protection, Improved Hammer Wraith, you'll be able to tab target and use this often. For raiding, a boss below 10% health still has a lot of HP, so you'll be able to spam this quite often, which is good. I mean, we have a spammable ability, I guess, at level 44, so that will work. Hopefully this rune is not locked behind a level 50 thing. For your feet, you have Guarded by the Light or Art of War. That depends on what you put in your legs. Are you going to run Exorcist, then Art of War? If you're going to run Rebuke, then Guarded by the Light. Waste is always going to be Sheath for now. If you are going to Holy Tank, that will be a different build. For Holy Tank, Shakaden Tank, you have a few options with your last 8 points. You can build down to your Holy Shock. You can take your last 8 points. You can put it here and hit and a little bit into survivability. Or you can put it into a Benediction, reduce your mana, and a few points into deflection for parry or cooldown or a little bit of damage, which I don't know how much of Seal of the Crusader you're going to be using. As for runes, if I was holy tanking, I would run Fanaticism on my head. Gives your holy spells increased crit, 18%. Seal of Martyrdom on my chest, maybe Divine Storm if necessary. Purifying Power on my wrist due to the reduces the cooldown. And you can cast Holy Wraith on everything. waste infusion of light due to the holy shock damage increase, and your crit reset the cooldowns of holy shock and exorcism. Legs, exorcism, self-explanatory. If you need a kick, there should be plenty of other classes around to provide a kick. And Avenger Shield I don't think will be necessary. A lot of the dungeons coming up are easy pool dungeons, a lot of line of sighting. And except for a Mardon that's just running there and hope you survive. Feat Art of War, straightforward. I mean, this is, like I said about the last few points, these are going to be up to you. You have 8 points left. You can put them more into the Holy Tree if you would like, and you can become kind of an off healer as well. I mean, you can go all Holy Tree with all of your points. That is completely up to you. I don't think you should do that. I think you should just get to Holy Shock as quick as possible. Take the less points you have and put them into Redoubt and hit. That way you have more hit. Because you are trying to build crits as well with Art of War. You don't want to miss. For your leveling from 40 to 50, you have a couple zones and a couple dungeons. You can finish off the Badlands, Swamp of Sorrows, and Dustswallow Marsh. You can continue running Alderman and finish running the quest in that dungeon if you haven't completed it. If you haven't done a full clear yet and done the Platinum Disc at the end, you can do that. Also, you have the option of the Zone Tyrannus with Azul Farok as a dungeon there. The last boss drops level 45 items, and it is a heavy AOE dungeon. There are large pools. Things can get out of control extremely fast in Zul'Farrak. I would say definitely be an AOE tank in this dungeon, just because it's easier to pick everything up. There is the waterfall in the middle that where you have to turn right, and that can be easily overpooled. There's a lot of areas that can be easily overpooled. And just make sure you click on all the graves when you go in there before the second boss. Very important, or before the first boss. Everyone knows the graves. Make sure you click on them if you're in a group. We have access to Feralis as a leveling zone. These levels for this is in the 40s, low 40s. You can come here in low mid 40s. There are some pre-quests you can do now. There is a flight path here, and there's a flight path in Thousand Needles on the border. Everyone should have this flight path. This other one is fairly easy to get. This is going to be your main hub. You have access to Dire Maul here, which no one will be going into yet. You have access to Desolus if you haven't finished it. There are quests here you can go and do, and in Desolus is where you're going to find the entrance to Mardon, which is going to be your mainstay for the entirety of Phase. Mardon is going to be the new Scarlet Monastery. You can go in the door at 43. I don't recommend it. 46 is probably a good level. The last boss drops level 49 items, so you're not going to be able to go in and put everything on, but it's just like Cathedral. You know, a lot of the bosses in Cathedral dropped the level 38, 39 items. Fellwood. Fellwood we'll have access to. We'll be able to start some of the quests in Fellwood. There is a village here, the Glade, outside of Fellpaw Village. This is a massive rep grind. I hope this gets taken care of in Season of Discovery. This will be a discussion later, once we start pushing into Phase 3 with the Fellpaw reputation grind. You can do some of the pre-quests. They're available at 45, I believe, or 46. With Sunken Temple being the supposed raid, I'm not really going to look at much of the gear because a lot of this will change. But I do want to discuss what type of damage we'll be facing in there. I mean, we faced, you know, a lot of shadow damage in Black Fathom Deeps, a lot of nature damage / fire damage in Nomer. These bosses in here are a lot of dragonlings. With Sunken Temple being the rumor as of the raid for level 50, there's really not a lot of detail I would go into the loot, because we know that the loot is going to change because it changed for Black Fathom Deeps and Nomer. You can come here and look at some of the loot to see what options there are. It's all level 48, 49. These will all be jumped to 50, obviously, and reworked. We don't know how much, so this will just be kind of play it by ear. But do leave in the comments if you think it's going to be fire, frost, damage, shadow, nature, just whatever the case may be. And we don't know what kind of dungeon changes are also going to happen to like Zul'Farrak or Marden. We know some of the Marden loot's going to be reworked, and we know some of the Zul'Farrak loot's going to be reworked. So I'm not going to go into any kind of best in slot, number crunch, and this and that. It's pointless. It's all speculation, and there's enough of that already. So if you made it this far, thanks for watching. Make sure you like the video, sub if you're new. Hopefully this kind of helps you figure out what kind of build you want to play in the next phase. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.